the original work of Su Qing's autobiographical novel 10 Years of Marriage. Chapter 12. The bird escaped from the Kajachuchu was frightened all night, crying and noisy. Early tomorrow morning, I urged my mother to release the wet nurse and the others to go back. Mother bought a lot of food for them to take back, and also gave them money to pay their respects and a nanny to accompany them. They went back, and my joints suddenly felt relaxed, like a bird escaping from its cage. Mother said, "You don't have to worry too much about yourself. My sister-in-law will eventually get married. Fortunately, your parents-in-law will not treat you badly. Even if the family is more restrained, that's fine. Being a daughter-in-law is much better now than before. As long as Changshan graduates, you can go to Shanghai to start a family and leave Cheku to her grandmother. If her grandmother refuses, I will take care of her." I remained silent. I did yearn for the word family, but how could I tell them about it? You can't just say that I'm not happy for you to live together, but you both want to go out with your husband, right? No. Xian should have told Xian to say this to his parents. He should have said that this was his own personal opinion, and that would be fine. But is he willing? With Ruixian in Shanghai, it might be inconvenient to go with me, right? My mother seemed to pity me very much, saying that I got married at such a young age and raised children at such a young age. I know that after a woman raises a child, she will no longer feel young no matter how young she is. Otherwise, how could Miss Su's brother Yu Bai say that I look like the Queen Mother of the West? He said that I resembled the Queen Mother of the West, perhaps referring to my personality. But I always felt that the word Queen Mother sounded really related to old age, and a woman should be like her and the Queen, especially the concubine, and the Virgin could be called her, like a princess. Yu Bai may be praising me, but I feel really unhappy when I hear it. Now let me talk about Zhu Jiatong and Yu Bai. My mother lived in the Zhu family, who was a junior. In addition to Mrs. Zhu, Feng Zhu and her daughter, there was also Zhu Xiukai, Mrs. Zhu's husband. He drank and slept every day, talked nonsense, and sometimes wrote poems, which made my wife often sleepy. Ignore him and he becomes an insignificant person. Yu Bai is Mrs. Zhu's nephew, who is also from N-City. He is currently studying at a university in Shanghai. His mother is seriously ill, so he often goes back to N-City to visit her mother and have fun. He loved to write new poems and novels, and often contributed articles to Shanghai magazines and supplements. Zhu Xiukai did not like his new poems and vernacular prose, but he liked his person. They often drank and chatted, which made Mrs. Zhu treat her nephew also caught low. However, Miss Feng Zhu did not take her mother's opinion seriously at all. She agreed with her father's opinion and thought more highly of him than her father. She looked at him as if he were a bright moon hanging alone in the sky without clouds. Yuri was very polite to his cousin, perhaps quite respectful, but not envious. He said that a woman should be like a flower, exuding beauty and wisdom. Being too practical is not enough to attract people's love and pity. He wanted his lover to be like the Greek goddesses, so majestic, so noble, so beautiful that people almost dare not look up at her. I knew that he might be referring to Feng Zhu's classmate Liu Michuan, but I couldn't tell for sure, because Michuan rarely came here. And even when she came, I didn't dare to get close to her. I felt that she was usually too proud, and refused to come when she came. A look from 8,000 miles away. The weather was getting hotter, so Yu Bai said, "We might as well go boating in the river outside the city." So Feng Zhujian invited me to attend. I asked my mother and went with them. Although the early summer sun was strong, it was not too scorching. I wore a pale blue palace gown, a black silk bow on my hair, flesh-colored stockings, and white high-heeled leather shoes. Yuri said, "The roads outside the city are not good, so I'm afraid you will get into trouble wearing these leather shoes." I heard the same thing, so I went to change into a pair of yellow grain leather flat shoes, but Feng Zhu wore a pair of homemade colorless Jigong cloth shoes. There was a belt in the middle, and the pocket was an Indian silk gown with a purple background and large white flowers, which made people's eyes ache. Flower. Yu Bai was wearing a light gray parasuit, a white melon collar shirt without a tie, an exquisite straw hat, and a pipe. His hands were jingling in his trouser pockets as he jingled his keys along the way. After leaving the city gate and looking back at the stretching city wall, I felt like this, feeling comfortable. There are many small boats. There are tourists in groups. some rowing by themselves, and some asking boaters to row. Some of them are playing poker in the boat. Yubai and I can row. He is behind the boat, I am on the bow, and Fengju is on the boat, sitting blankly in the middle cabin, picking his nails. I secretly thought to myself that there are so many women who don't know how to entertain. They are busy with troublesome and silly things all day long. They don't know the meaning of the word discretion and they don't know how to find their own fun. Yubai seems to be a person who is born to seek pleasure, while Fengju will always endure hardship. Even if she suffered to death for him, there may be no benefit in letting him go. I wanted to sigh, but I didn't make a sound. Suddenly, Yubai pointed at another boat coming from the opposite side and said, "Look, that girl." I looked in the direction he pointed, and I saw a bright and charming girl rowing. Her face was round, the eyes are dark and look bright. Sitting opposite her was a Chinese woman in a gray gown. She looked familiar. As she approached, she turned around, and I couldn't help shouting, "Are you here, fifth aunt?" So the fifth aunt waved to us, and we all worked hard to row the boat together. After introducing her, it turned out that the girl was called Luoyang, and she was my fifth aunt's student. Luoyang is a lively and modern woman, the same age as me, but she still looks like an innocent girl who knows no sorrow. Yubai seemed to be very interested in her. After we rowed in the river for a while, our fifth aunt invited us to have dinner at her house. Yubai said, "Why don't we go to the hotel where he lives to take a bath? And then everyone can go to Rexing Pavilion to eat, and he will treat them." I pondered for a long time, and saw that my fifth aunt had no objection, so I stopped talking. Yubai said, his mother thought he was noisy because of the many friends he had, so she asked him to try to live outside when he came back. The hotel he stayed in was close to the west of the lake and the scenery was very beautiful. After dinner, the fifth aunt and Yubai had a good chat, and they became friends from then on. Yubai was very good at understanding women's psychology, and he flattered my fifth aunt all the time. My fifth aunt seemed to be taking advantage of her and was almost overjoyed, but I looked on and felt sad, so I excused myself and came back first. Later, I heard that Luoyang and Yubai had a very close relationship from the second day on. Fengju was so angry that nothing happened on the third day, and Yubai went back to Shanghai on the fourth day. On the morning of his departure, he also came to Zhu's house to say goodbye. I said hello to him, but Fengju ignored him and naturally refused to see him off. Only Luoyang took my fifth aunt to see him off on the ship, and also gave him fruits. According to what my fifth aunt told me later, Luoyang burst into tears in public that day. He left, and Fengju became mentally ill from then on. Mrs. Su said, "Don't be too tired in the hot weather. It's okay to revise the student examination papers slowly. It's summer vacation. I advise you to take a rest. Don't teach anymore next semester. You can embroider some pillow flowers at home. You can raise your daughter well. At this age, she will marry her husband as soon as she decides to marry her." Fengju lowered her head and said to her mother, "My daughter would like to serve her parents all her life." Mrs. Su opened her eyes wide and was speechless. Only Zhu Shukai know her. He once said to me behind my back, "Do you know what my Ah Feng is worried about? She is." As he said that, he wrote 2 lines of poetry and handed them to me. It turned out to be, "The moon is not long and the flowers are easy to fall. In this life, melancholy for Ito." These 2 sentences also made me sad. My mother knew that I couldn't live here forever, so she didn't know how to love me. She gave me all kinds of snacks, and she planned every day how to show respect for me. She also advised me to go to various places, go to the houses of relatives and friends. When a person is restrained, he seems to just want to be free and run around every day. But once he is free, he is like a bird just out of the cage, looking round at the vast world and not knowing where to fly. It would be nice to go somewhere. The weather is so hot that I can't eat greasy food. I eat too much sweet food and it becomes sour. I don't seem to want to eat anything except fruit and boiled water, and I feel that eating too much is not good. But my mother's kindness could not be disappointed, so I had no choice but to swallow it in mouthfuls until I felt like vomiting in my stomach. My mother was very suspicious that these things were not delicious enough, but I was really impatient with her too much solicitude. Sometimes I wanted to go to other people's houses for a walk, but when I got up in the morning and washed myself, the sun was already shining down, so I held an umbrella. It is inconvenient to shade the sun, and you are not willing to let your skin turn black after being exposed to the sun for a long time. Moreover, it is stained by sweat all the time. A beautiful gown can only be worn once or twice before it needs to be washed. After washing, it will no longer be as good as before. And there is another biggest reason. Now when I go to other people's homes, they treat me like an adult. They are very polite with tea and cigarettes. I have to bring some gifts when I go. And I have to give money to the servants when I come out. If you meet a certain kind of child, you have to give him candy money, etc. This expense is not a small amount. My parents-in-law didn't have any pocket money to give me at home, but they had ready-made food, clothes, shoes, and socks. I didn't need to buy anything else. I just gave Grandma Huang 1 yuan as a reward during the holidays. This money was given to me when I was studying at C University. Use the leftovers. The money I got in Pekai was used up every month. This time I went back to my mother's house and gave a total of 3 yuan to Lin's mother and the Zhu family servants, and the remaining money was only 10 yuan. Sometimes I have to pay a dime to ride in a car, and it's really difficult to see whether I can get in or out. For some reason, I now don't hesitate to ask my mother for money. Occasionally, when my mother asked me whether I had enough pocket money, I became extremely flustered and wanted to tell the truth. However, I still blushed and said in a low voice, I still have money from teaching. My mother believed it to be true and stopped mentioning it. How could I tell her that all the money had been spent on buying things to honor my parents-in-law and Shanghai? Because I had never been able to buy anything to express my love to her. It's really sad to be a human being. When the girl leaves the pavilion, she and her mother are all alienated. Maybe the mother also knows her own trap. The price of grain is low and the expenses are high. She is a woman, without her husband, who will make money from the land. Thinking of this, I feel extremely ashamed. I have wasted so many years studying. Not only am I unable to be financially independent, I cannot even buy a crutch from my mother. No, it's not something I can do. It's not something I can't do. It's probably because my mother doesn't care, but my parents-in-law Xingying has to deal with it first. I am a heartless and timid daughter, but my mother would never think like that. She just felt that she married me too early and didn't eat enough food from her parents' home. She wanted to make sure I was well fed in these few days. I said I couldn't eat anymore, and my mother shed tears and said, "Son, don't be upset with me. You won't be able to see me again. The faster time goes, the more we should have a good talk." But God knows, my mother and I have nothing to say. If I say how happy I am in my husband's family, she won't believe me if I don't say it, and she will feel uncomfortable if I say it too much. If I say how indifferent the whole family is to me, she will be even more worried. But she has to let me go, and she will always worry about me from now on. I really didn't know how to ask her. During the day, when I was clear-headed, I always said that my parents-in-law were understanding. My husband was not bad. My sister-in-law was quite sensible. And so on. At night, when I was facing my mother under the light, I always felt sad and wanted to cry in her arms and tell her how wronged I was. But I restrained myself and only said a little, not talking about the facts at all. But my mother had already seen through her expression and knew that what I was going to say was not good. So she stopped me from talking, fearing that Lin Mai in the back room would hear it and tell people about it everywhere. After all, it's more important to be decent. I secretly hated her. So when she asked me during the day when no one was eavesdropping, I denied it with a serious face. She didn't understand me. So what's the point of understanding me? And she didn't seem to want to understand me very much. She was just busy making food to fill my stomach. And she wished she could stuff me to death at home in one go, so that she could feel at ease. She didn't feel bad about selling the gold-valued millet at a low price to buy greasy and sweet food, which only made people feel bloated and sometimes sour. Sometimes she couldn't finish the food, and she was afraid that it would go bad overnight. She was busy making food and sent it to Mrs. Zhu and Miss Fengju, but she didn't mention Zhu Shukai. I don't know if she was snobbish or avoiding suspicion. I thought to myself, the mother and daughter of the Zhu family are the most vulgar people, with no lovable qualities. Why should I give them the food I worked so hard to make? Even if you are willing to give it to them, I can't bear to see it. So when she made fresh food for the second time and sent it to me, I turned away angrily and said, I don't want to eat any of it. You can take it all to ask Motherland to give it to the mother and daughter of the Zhu family." My mother looked at me with grievance. She didn't understand what the Zhu family mother and daughter had done to offend me. She was just worried that if I said anything more, Lin Ma would hear it and gossip about it. Poor and hateful mother. Why don't you save some energy and lie down under the curtain to cool off? Why do you have to be busy with this and that in the hot weather, making people feel upset? If you don't worry about spending this money on me, why don't you just give me the money and let me be seen in the night sky like a bird out of a cage? But you are stubborn about your own opinion, in vain annoying your beloved children, but letting irrelevant people get the benefits. Lin Ma has been busy with you for me these days. I can't give her more money. Thinking of the lack of money, I became even more unhappy. Fifth Aunt came in the morning. Doesn't it mean that my mother has spent so much money on me? And I seem to be a little lacking in filial piety. Pa, the money belongs to my mother, and whether she is willing to spend it on me or not is none of your relatives' business. It's as if an unmarried daughter can use the family's money freely, but after getting married, she has to use it in a way that is in accordance with etiquette. For example, preparing a dowry is a must, but if my mother wants to give me a few pieces of cloth, she has to do it secretly. 24 quilts and 16 pairs of pillows are laid out on four sides. If my mother can't afford it, her relatives are willing to lend them. But if my mother wants to give me pillows or quilts again in the future, she has to keep it secret from them. Otherwise, she has to explain the reason to them first. The things are still the mother's things, but the daughter no longer belongs to her completely. She has to dress up for her daughter, and the daughter also has to dress up for her. It's not the daughter herself who manages her to dress up, but the daughters-in-laws. It is not necessarily directly related to the son-in-law. I have to thank my parents-in-law. They didn't lose face for me. They didn't embarrass my mother in front of others. My mother is a strong woman. She can save money and suffer, but she won't let others say anything wrong. Of course, I have to understand her painstaking efforts. I have to be filial to her, even when I am the poorest. I am my mother's daughter. I would rather suffer myself than my mother. Even if I can't suffer my mother, I have to do it in front of no one. I can't let her be laughed at by my fifth aunt, Mrs. Su, and all the relatives and neighbors. I want money. My money is not spent for her, but for our relatives and neighbors. So I thought again and again, where can I find some money? Sell my own labor? No one? Yes, things are valuable. But what do I have? There are books in this house that I read in school. There are small things that I carefully selected in the store. There are old shoes, which I wore to show off at weddings and birthdays, and even my various children's toys, which I played with since I was a child. They have many commemorative meanings, but now I am married. These things are not eligible to be included in the dowry. They can't follow me. That's it. They will never be mine again. Although I also know that my mother has no use for them, and she will never be stingy to give them all to me. If I ask, she will be willing to let me take them all, as long as no one sees, and no one will remember and ask about it in the future. But I can't. Their minds are so narrow, and their memories are so sharp, they will laugh at my mother behind her back and say, "Why does her eldest daughter say that her husband's family is good, but she even wants to take these rags and leftovers? How can I wash away this insult for my mother? Even if I bring them back, it won't work." Therefore, all these precious things are now left with my mother. My mother lost her daughter and could only caress these things and shed tears from time to time. She was reluctant to tear down the clothes and use them as linings, and would rather dry them every year. Although the books were useless, they were always read by my daughter, so I was reluctant to put them away, let alone sell them. After pondering for several times, I finally dressed up and picked up the leather basket to go out to visit friends. When I came back, I bought some things for my mother. They were not food, but durable things that would not spoil. She could keep them at any time and tell relatives and neighbors to let them know that her daughter had really fulfilled her filial piety by returning home this time, and her grain was not sold in vain. How could the young lady of a certain family be as good as me? So they all listened with jealousy, not believing in their hearts, and wanted to find some inconsistencies to expose her, but they couldn't find any. The things were really bought by me, and Lin Ma was the witness. Fifth Aunt seemed very disappointed, and Mrs. Su was worried. worrying that Fengzhu might not be as good as me in the future. Finally, that night, someone from my mother-in-law's family came to say that the young master would be back the day after tomorrow, and that they would come to pick up the new young mistress tomorrow. My mother said with red eyes that she went to pick me up in the form of asking for permission, asking my mother-in-law if she could let me go back. And the other side told her in the form of notifying, saying that if she was told to go back, she had to go back, and she couldn't leave her daughter behind for the rest of her life. She was always. That night, my mother couldn't eat, and she was no longer busy cooking, but just forced a smile to help me pack things, because I was embarrassed to pack them up so enthusiastically and wanted to go back to my husband's house. I held her hand and said, "Mom, don't be too tired, right? Why are you in such a hurry?" She said that it was important to check everything. Otherwise, if something was missing, your mother-in-law would find it, and she would guess that it was sent back to her mother's house without saying anything, and she would blame you for having to mind. I didn't answer silently, and quickly let go of her hand and sat down in the dark. She suddenly noticed it and asked, "Where is your red rose gem ring?" I lowered my head. My gem ring has been sold, and filial piety comes from this. But how can I say it out loud? After a long time, I came up with a very generous and beautiful answer. I accidentally dropped it on the road when I went to see my friend that day. She seemed very sorry, but not very anxious, as if she had it all planned out. While tidying up my basket, she sighed to me softly, "It's not your fault. You are only 20 years old. After all, you are a child." I felt very sad, ashamed, and a little anxious. Will my mother-in-law think that my mother received the stolen goods tomorrow? The things were originally my mother's. She gave them to me as a dowry, and then let others control them. I don't know how my mother spent that night. I was only sad for a while, and then I fell asleep. The next day, when my mother-in-law's family sent someone to pick me up, my mother had already bought a lot of Bauta cakes, fruits, etc., and asked me to return the gift. It seemed that there were more than I brought last time. Mother Lin took these things and piled them on the car first. Mother pulled me to the back room and stood face to face with her. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to wipe them away, fearing that I would notice them. In fact, she couldn't wipe them away completely. Her tears might have filled her belly and kept pouring up, even blocking her throat. She just pulled my hand hard and pressed a hard and cold thing into my palm, sobbing, "There is a pair worth. I plan to wear it when I die." I couldn't bear to see it anymore, so she pushed me out again. I just held the thing tightly. When we got on the car, I gave Mother Lin 10 yuan. Mother Lin smiled so hard that she couldn't close her mouth. She wanted to pretend to be reluctant to leave, but she couldn't. My mother just wanted to pretend to be calm and relieved. Everything else was fine, but she couldn't hold back her tears and fell one after another. I also wanted to cry, but I didn't know why I couldn't cry. Xian would go home tomorrow. It was not until the car drove away that I remembered that I was still holding a hard, but no longer shocking object in my hand. Then I looked at it carefully and found that it was exactly the same as the first time. It was the red rose gem ring that my mother had prepared for herself to wear when she was buried. Tears flowed down my face.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.